Or maybe you're going to ask me to
No,
tell
I'm going
you
to
about...
ask you to tell about Measure A because, Measure A was developed by Santa Clarans for Santa Clarans.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the real, the crux of the situation is that we sent we appointed a charter review committee, and we actually appointed everyone who applied to be on the charter review committee.
We were 15 members.
15
It
members?
started, I think, at 15, and then one person resigned maybe halfway through, and then with attendance. But we typically would have 13 people present. Yeah,
right. A very hardworking committee, and I'm going to have you talk about the committee. But the committee came up with recommendations to the city council, which we accepted unanimously, and therefore Measure A was born. Yeah. So why don't you talk a little bit about what you did on the charter review committee?
So actually. I was on the charter review committee in 2016 and in the 2017 committee, which ultimately proposed Measure A. But even back in 2016, one of the main issues that we were discussing as a committee. Now, not all of the members in the 2017 committee were the same in 2016, but there were a good number of them that applied and came back. And so in 2016, we spent quite a bit of time talking about whether or not we like the way we elect our council and mayor and other positions today. And we looked at what other cities are doing and what other municipalities, not just cities, because you have school boards and that sort of thing, are doing. And unfortunately, in 2016, we convened our charter committee, I think it was in April, and we wanted to come up with a decision for the June ballot at best, and for the November ballot at worst, and legally we couldn't meet the legal requirements for noticing for meetings for district lines and all this other stuff, and then plus the 2 meetings to be able to put ordinances into effect. So we deferred and said we can't be rushing this before the 2016 election. So we reconvened in I think it was February was our first meeting of 2017, and we spent a lot of time looking at different, I guess you could say, voting systems. And one of the things that is super unique about Santa Clara that is not in most cities around California, actually not most cities around the country, is that we are not a segregated city. And so when you look at the demographics of Santa Clara, and the city retained an independent demographer, Dr. Jean Gobelay, and she actually was involved. I mean, a lot of people talk about how Fremont just redistricted last year. They weren't districts, and so they went to districts, and Dr. Gobelay was the resident expert that they hired as well in Fremont and in many cities. I think Menlo Park is looking at that as well. And so Dr. Gobelay came, and she was as surprised as we were about the demographics, and we don't really have pockets of neighborhoods where you have a majority minority in terms of ethnicity. And there's a lot of conversations. Ultimately, what we ended up with was that we decided that a hybrid model would suit Santa Clara. I mean, Santa Clara is unique in a lot of ways. We're the only city in California that elect our chief of police. Right. And it wouldn't be too far-fetched to have a unique solution for the way we elect our council and mayor. So we decided that we would have a hybrid model with districts and what's called ranked choice voting. And ranked choice voting, it really the idea behind pulling ranked choice voting in the picture was that we wouldn't have vote splitting. And vote splitting is something that we're all too familiar with here in Santa Clara, where candidates are winning without a majority support. And had people been able to express their preferences of candidates, certain people on the city council may not have been elected. An example that I brought up in the past is that Dominic Caserta won his seat 3.5 years ago with only 36 or 39%. And realistically, when you look at the platform of his opponents, Kevin Park and Roseanne LaCourciere, that's 61% of Santa Clara didn't want Dominic Caserta as the council member. Really. Right. And so with ranked choice voting, those who voted for Roseanne as their top pick may have put Kevin Park as their second pick. And so since Roseanne got the least number of votes, those people who voted for Roseanne their ballots would have gone to Kevin Park. And it's no different than basically a runoff election. So because Dominic Caserta didn't win 50%, if we had run that election in June, we'd run it again in November, and then it would be between Dominic and Kevin, and then people would be able to vote and make their voices heard. And it's very likely that certain people on the council wouldn't have been elected to council if we had that.
But isn't it true that we will not have ranked choice voting unless the entire county has ranked choice voting? So I think that's what important for people to know, that Santa Clara wouldn't be just the one-off city that has ranked choice voting. It would have to be in the county.
The whole county would be able to support that.
The whole county would have to support it. Yeah. So that's going to be sometime down the line.
Yeah, so I mean, and it's no stranger to California either. I mean, San Francisco uses ranked choice voting, Oakland uses ranked choice voting, San Leandro uses ranked choice voting, and then other cities around the country use it as well.
Right.
And to much success, and people are very happy with it. And a number of spoiled ballots. I think when you looked at the numbers from Minneapolis, it was 99.2% of the ballots were valid.
Yeah.
And so that's actually a higher percentage than our regular ballot system right now.
But Measure A is really the geographical neighborhoods would be represented, whereas right now we only have one representative from the north, El Camino up forward. We have Vice Mayor Kathy Watanabe.
Yeah.
And
it's the first. It's a first.
Yeah.
I mean, she's the first council member to represent the north side, and really, when you look at how Santa Clara has grown and the amount of development that's happening, particularly in the north, folks in the north need representation. And really, what we decided was that hybrid model, when we use ranked choice voting, but we integrate it with a district system that allows people in the north to feel like they're represented. We felt that was the way to go, and so we decided to just do 2 districts. Santa Clara is a pretty small city. It's the size of one entire district in San Jose. It's a fairly small city.
Right.
And so when you look at, just splitting the city into 2, you kind of prevent from what we see in many cities, including San Jose. You get the mini mayor syndrome.
Right.
So every district then has their own mayor. And, when you have 6 districts or 9 districts like they do in San Jose, and we didn't feel like that was reflective of Santa Clara's values and what Santa Clarans want. Santa Clarans don't want mini mayors. Santa Clarans want council members that represent the whole city.
Right, that have a bigger vision. And I think, and you're all aware of the lawsuit, so we've been sued by an outside group coming into Santa Clara wanting us to split our city into many districts, like taking one of San Jose's district and cutting it up into 6 or 7 more districts and getting rid of the elected mayor and doing those kinds of things. But the outside attorneys that are coming in are looking at, obtaining, those are most of the opponents of Measure A, looking at obtaining millions of dollars in attorney's fees from our city. Yeah. And again, Santa Clara's developed this plan for Santa Clara. Yeah. And I think that people I think you really touched on it, don't understand what a diverse city we actually are. Mm-hmm. Our neighborhoods are very diverse. That's why they had such a difficult time trying to find any pockets that they could to make their case. So I think that the Charter Review Committee, and we took your recommendations. We didn't alter anything. The council didn't. We took them. It was a community-based recommendations that we took, and we took them unanimously.
A ton of input from people posting comments on the city's website. We had a ton of people coming to our meetings, people following the live streams for sure. And so, I mean, I think there was a lot of community input, and it's I gotta say, I mean, not to be negative, but it's really sad that, these folks who are suing the city never came to talk and provide valuable input. They never engage, I mean, like it's easy to sue anybody. I mean, this is America. You can sue anybody for anything, right?
Right.
And it's one thing to sue and try to kind of force your way to change, but it's another thing to actually engage and seek community input and build something that is consensus from the community, or maybe not consensus, but has grassroots support. And it was really sad to see that to see it. The events turn that way, and I don't think you know this, but I was approached personally by the attorney, And I was asked, and I think it was December of 2016, just when we finished the 2016 charter review and before we started the 2017 charter review, I was asked to be a plaintiff to sue the city. And
so they're proactively out there trying to find plaintiffs. So.
Well, they have the attorney who's from outside of the city has no legal standing in our city, so he has to find people who live in the city to file the lawsuit on his behalf. So I was approached, and I know other people who were approached who also, respectfully told them to go and pound sand, because really that's not how. That's not a good way to make change, is to sue and to just kind of force your way into change. And really, when the Charter Review Committee got together, it was very, very encouraging to see it was a sense of community, because we had people of all walks of life, we had people of all ethnicities, we had people from the north, from the south, from the west, from the old quad. We had millennials, we had older folks, and we had an extremely diverse group of folks from the standpoint of ethnicity as well. We had the former chief of police, we had the chair of the Parks and Rec department. So we had people from all walks of life representing all interests in the city, and it was unanimous.
Right.
And I think that was pretty incredible.
Well, I mean, it's clear to me that it's outsiders coming in, trying to make money off the city, and really affecting the governance of our city and where we govern from our community. Yeah. And so thank you again for your service on that.
Appreciate it,
on the committee. You've done a ton of work, and I hope it's successful.
I appreciate that. I mean, and that's why I've been, like, people know that I've been personally advocating for Measure A, because I really truly believe, I mean, when you would see the dynamic in that committee,
right,
and the lights, how people's faces just lit up when we would discuss and debate, rigorously. And we debated even 6 districts.
Right.
We debated 2 districts. We debated 3 districts. We debated no districts. And we debated, a ton of, it was a very robust discussion, and just the way people were engaged. Our meetings went over every time.
We would watch them on Facebook.
And so it was just...
You wore us out, too, just watching you.
Now I know how your meetings go to 1 a.m.
No longer.
Yeah.
But the key is the opponents didn't come in. They didn't participate.
Well, they would send a representative who would sit in the audience and take notes the entire time, and then not provide feedback. And then the one time one of their attorneys came up to the microphone during public comment, literally said, "We will not back down unless you guys go to 6 districts." And it's like, that's not how you engage. That's not how you... I mean, he's hearing all of the robust discussion, including why we think 6 districts may not be suitable for Santa Clara, and to go up to the microphone and say, "We will not let this lawsuit go unless you go by 6 districts. So, by hook or crook, we're going to go to 6 districts."
And it's about money, too.
And it's about money.
Money.
I mean, lawsuits like this throughout the state have usually netted at least $1 million, and they're probably looking at least a couple $1 million, in attorney's fees from the city, and eliminating elected mayor, going to 7 districts. I mean, it was difficult enough drawing 2 districts.
Right.
Where do you draw the line? Because every line you draw is going to split somebody up.
Right.
We're such an integrated community. So imagine how difficult it would be to draw the lines for 7 districts. Right. I can't see that happening. And it's just really sad to see that it's come to this, where you have this, like you said, an outside opposition that stands to benefit financially, but also they don't live here.
No.
I mean, they don't live here. And so it's like, imposing their will on Santa Clara it's been pretty upsetting.